Have you ever wondered why some older adults seem to thrive, full of energy, laughter, and a sense of purpose, while others quietly fade into loneliness, feeling like life has passed them by? Maybe you live alone. Maybe you love your independence. But be honest, have you ever found yourself staring out the window, watching the world go by, feeling like you've somehow drifted away from it? At first, the quiet can be peaceful, but over time it starts feeling heavier. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and before you know it, you start asking yourself, when was the last time I had a real conversation with someone? But here's the real shocker. A groundbreaking 85-year-long Harvard study on happiness found that the secret to a longer, healthier life isn't diet, exercise, or money, it's social connection. Not just having people around, but truly engaging with life and those around you. And yet, as we age, this becomes harder. Friends move away. Family gets busy. It becomes easier to stay home than to put in the effort to socialize. This is exactly what happened to two women, Alice and Margaret. Both were retired teachers. Both lived alone. But their lives took completely different paths. Alice wakes up each morning with a full day ahead. A morning walk where she waves at neighbors. An afternoon book club where she laughs with old friends. A phone call with her grandkids before bed. She feels alive, like she's still part of something bigger than herself. Margaret? She wakes up to silence. She drinks her coffee alone, watches TV alone, and realizes it's been 3 weeks since she had an actual conversation with someone. At first, the solitude felt peaceful, but now, it feels like a heavy, invisible weight pressing down on her. And here's the twist. Margaret never chose this life. It just happened. One skipped event turned into 2, then 5. A few unanswered calls turned into months of silence. So let me ask you, which path are you on right now? Are you living each day with excitement like Alice? Or are you slowly slipping into isolation like Margaret? The truth is, aging doesn't have to mean fading away. But there are silent mistakes that slowly creep in, mistakes that can rob you of joy, health, and even years of your life. In this video, we're going to uncover 12 hidden mistakes that many older adults make when living alone, and how you can avoid them. Some of these might shock you. Some might even challenge what you believe about aging. But by the end, you'll have the tools to not just survive, but thrive in this chapter of your life. And before we dive in, let me ask you, have you ever felt like you're just existing rather than truly living? If so, keep watching, because what you're about to learn could change everything. Have you ever heard the phrase, loneliness is a silent killer? That's not just a saying, it's a fact. Studies show that chronic loneliness increases the risk of early death as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's linked to higher risks of heart disease, dementia, and depression. Yet, so many older adults fall into this trap without even realizing it. At first, living alone feels freeing. You finally have the peace and quiet you've always wanted. No obligations, no schedules, no one telling you what to do. But then, little by little, things change. You skip one family gathering because you're tired. You turn down an invitation to lunch because it's easier to stay home. You tell yourself you'll call your old friends later, but later never comes. And suddenly you wake up one day and realize you haven't had a meaningful conversation in weeks. This is exactly what happened to Margaret, a woman in her late 60s who used to be incredibly social. She was the life of the party, always planning trips and outings. But after retirement, things slowly changed. Her daily routine shrank to just a few simple tasks. Wake up, watch TV, eat meals alone, go to bed. At first, she didn't even notice how isolated she had become. She still told herself, I'm fine. I don't need to go out that much. But over time, something shifted. The silence that once felt peaceful now felt crushing. She started feeling anxious, unmotivated, and even physically weaker. One day, she read an article about how social isolation is directly linked to cognitive decline. That was her wake-up call. She decided to make a change. She started small, joining an online book club, calling her old colleagues, and even volunteering at a local shelter once a week. And you know what happened? Within a few months, she felt like herself again. So, if you're watching this and thinking, I don't need to be social, I'm fine on my own, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you laughed with someone? When was the last time you had a real, deep conversation? Because here's the truth, humans are wired for connection. No matter how independent you are, your mind and body need social interaction to thrive. So, don't wait until the loneliness becomes unbearable. Be proactive. Pick up the phone. Say yes to that invitation. Even if it's just a weekly coffee date or a short phone call, it could change your life. Have you ever told yourself, I'll schedule that doctor's appointment next week, only for next week to turn into next month? Or thought, I don't need to exercise today. I'll do it tomorrow, but somehow tomorrow never comes? Neglecting your health doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, gradually, until one day it catches up to you. Living alone makes it easier to let things slide. There's no one reminding you to eat at the right times, to take your medications, or to get outside for fresh air. It's tempting to think, I'm doing fine. Nothing's wrong. But here's the truth. Most serious health problems don't happen suddenly. They build up over time, and the warning signs are easy to miss if no one else is there to notice them. That's exactly what happened to John. A strong, independent 72-year-old who had always taken pride in taking care of himself. After his wife passed away, he assured everyone he was managing just fine. But little by little, things started changing. He stopped going for his daily walks. He relied on frozen dinners instead of cooking balanced meals. He started forgetting to take his blood pressure medication. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. He felt mostly fine. Then one morning, he woke up feeling dizzy. His heart was racing. His vision was blurry. He was having a hypertensive crisis. His blood pressure had shot up dangerously high because he had been missing doses of his medication for weeks without realizing it. That morning could have ended in disaster. He was lucky. He made it to the hospital in time. But the doctor gave him a wake-up call. If he didn't start taking care of himself, his independence wouldn't last much longer. And that's the real danger, not just illness itself, but what it takes away from you. Because the reality is, when your health starts declining, your freedom does too. John realized he needed to make a change before it was too late. He set alarms to remind himself to take his medication every day. He started preparing healthier meals in advance so he wouldn't be tempted to rely on processed food. He committed to walking every morning, even if it was just for 10 minutes. And within weeks, he felt stronger, sharper, and more in control of his life. This is something so many people overlook. That aging doesn't have to mean losing your vitality. Your body is designed to adapt to whatever routine you give it. If you train it to be strong and active, it will stay strong and active. But if you let it sit still, if you stop challenging it, it will weaken, stiffen, and struggle. So, take a moment and ask yourself, are you treating your body with the care it deserves? Are you eating well-balanced meals, or just grabbing whatever's easiest? Are you taking your medications exactly as prescribed, or just whenever you happen to remember? Are you moving your body every day, or have you fallen into a sedentary routine without realizing it? Here's the plot twist. It's never too late to change. Studies have shown that even people in their 80s and 90s can regain strength, balance, and endurance just by introducing small, consistent habits. And the best part? You don't have to do anything extreme. You don't have to run marathons or lift heavy weights. Just a 20-minute daily walk, a few stretches in the morning, or swapping out processed food for fresh meals can add years to your life. But waiting until a health scare happens? That's a risk you don't want to take. So start today. Set reminders. Plan your meals. Get outside even if it's just for a short walk. Your body, your future self, and the people who love you will thank you. Because at the end of the day, your health isn't just about you. It's about the life you want to live and how long you get to enjoy it. Most people assume that losing independence happens suddenly. One major accident, one health crisis, one unexpected fall. But that's not true. Independence isn't lost in an instant. It slips away gradually in the smallest, most unnoticeable ways. Think about it. At what point does skipping a meal turn into malnutrition? At what point does "I'll go outside tomorrow" turn into weeks of barely moving? At what point does "I don't need help" turn into being forced to rely on others after a crisis? This is how independence fades. Not with one big moment, but with tiny choices repeated over time. Take Sarah, for example. She loved her home, the one she had lived in for over 40 years. Every room held memories, every item had meaning. But the reality was, her house had become a burden. Too big to maintain, too many things to clean, too many repairs to keep up with. But she refused to move. At first, it was just small inconveniences. The stairs felt steeper. The yard work became harder. She ignored the loose rug, the dim hallway light, the wobbly stair railing. Then one night she tripped. The fall shattered her hip, and suddenly she was forced to leave her home on someone else's terms. So ask yourself, is your home still serving you, or are you serving your home? Because waiting until an accident happens isn't independence, it's losing control. And speaking of losing control, let's talk about something even more controversial: asking for help. There's a dangerous myth that if you accept help, you're somehow less independent. That letting family assist with finances, hiring someone for household tasks, or using medical devices means you're giving up. But let's challenge that idea for a moment. Does needing a doctor mean you're weak? Does hiring a professional mean you're incapable? Does using a walking aid mean you've lost control of your life? No, that's not weakness, that's wisdom. Michael didn't see it that way. He prided himself on being self-sufficient. He refused help from his daughter when she offered to organize his paperwork. He refused to let a neighbor assist with groceries. Then one day he had a stroke. Suddenly, he couldn't manage his bills, run errands, or even drive himself to doctor's appointments. But this time, it wasn't on his terms. He was forced to rely on others in a crisis. And here's the truth: the strongest people aren't the ones who do everything alone. They're the ones who plan ahead so they don't have to depend on others in an emergency. So, let me ask you, are you refusing help because you truly don't need it? Or because you don't want to admit that you might? Real independence isn't about doing everything yourself. It's about knowing when to prepare, when to delegate, and when to accept support so you don't lose control later. And while we're on the subject of self-deception, let's talk about something even more uncomfortable: losing your sense of purpose. Nobody prepares you for what happens after retirement. The moment when the children are grown, the job is gone, and for the first time in decades, you don't have a clear role. At first, it feels like freedom. But then, something strange happens. The days start blurring together. The mornings feel empty. The evenings feel long. And that sense of accomplishment you once had, it disappears. Helen felt this way. She had spent her life working, raising a family, keeping busy. But after retiring, she woke up feeling lost. She filled her time with TV, errands, and small hobbies, but none of it felt fulfilling. Then one day she signed up for a local volunteer program helping children learn to read. It started as just a few hours a week, but soon it changed everything. She felt needed again. She had a reason to wake up in the morning. And here's something most people don't realize: having a purpose isn't just about feeling good. It directly affects your health and longevity. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose live longer, healthier lives. So if you ever wake up feeling like you're just passing time, ask yourself, what can I do today to feel engaged, connected, and alive? Because the happiest older adults aren't the ones with the most money or the best health. They're the ones who still feel like their life has meaning. And here's the real twist: loneliness, poor health, unsafe homes, and a loss of purpose aren't separate problems. They're all connected. Think about it. When you stay socially engaged, your mental and physical health improve. When you take care of your body, you maintain your ability to be independent. When you create a safe and comfortable home, you prevent accidents that could take away your freedom. And when you have a reason to wake up in the morning, everything else falls into place. But most people don't see this until it's too late. They think, I'll get out and socialize more next month. I'll start exercising when I feel better. I'll fix up the house when I have time. And then months pass. Nothing changes. And then, suddenly, everything changes all at once. The reality is, the choices you make today determine the life you'll live tomorrow. So let me ask you again, which of these mistakes are you making right now? Are you unintentionally isolating yourself? Letting your health slide? Ignoring safety risks in your home? Holding on to the belief that you have to do everything alone? If any of this resonates with you, the good news is it's not too late to change. Because aging doesn't have to mean shrinking into the background. It can mean expanding into a new, fulfilling chapter of life. But only if you make the choice to stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. And in the next part of this video, I'll show you exactly how to do that. But first, comment below. Which of these mistakes do you think is the most dangerous? Let's talk about it. So now that you know the biggest mistakes, the real question is, how do you avoid them? The answer isn't complicated. In fact, it starts with small, intentional changes, the kind that don't feel like much at first but add up over time. Let's start with your health. You don't need to run marathons or follow a strict diet to stay strong. But if you're skipping meals, avoiding movement, and neglecting your doctor's appointments, you're slowly making yourself weaker. The best way to break this cycle? Create a routine that works for you. Set alarms to remind yourself to take medication on time. Make meals simple but nutritious, soups, salads, and proteins that fuel your body without feeling like a chore. And most importantly, move every day. Even if it's just a 10-minute walk around the block, stretching in the morning, or light exercises at home. Your body doesn't need perfection, it needs consistency. And let's talk about your home. If you're still navigating cluttered hallways, poor lighting, and outdated furniture that makes movement difficult, you're not setting yourself up for success. Go through your home with fresh eyes. Remove tripping hazards. Add brighter lighting. Consider small adjustments like a shower chair, grab bars, or rearranging furniture to make movement easier. Because here's the truth, your environment should work for you, not against you. And if your home has become too much to manage, don't be afraid to consider downsizing. It's not about giving up, it's about choosing freedom over burden. But even with good health and a safe home, there's still something more important, your social life. You can eat well, exercise, and have the safest home in the world, but if you're spending most of your time alone, your quality of life will still decline. Human connection isn't just about having people around, it's about feeling engaged, needed, and valued. And let's be honest, building and maintaining relationships takes effort. But the effort is worth it. You don't have to wait for people to come to you. Take the first step. Call an old friend, even if it's been a long time. Join a community group, even if it feels awkward at first. Find a local activity that interests you, even if it means stepping out of your comfort zone. Because here's something science has proven. Social isolation increases the risk of dementia, depression, and even heart disease. Staying connected isn't just good for the soul, it's essential for the brain. And if you think, but I'm too old to make new friends, I want you to rethink that. Some of the deepest friendships are formed later in life, when people finally have the time to invest in meaningful relationships. And with technology today, it's easier than ever to stay in touch, even if it's just a quick video call with family or a daily text to check in with someone. You are never too old to build new connections. And let's not forget, the happiest people aren't the richest or the healthiest. They're the ones who feel like they still have something to give. That's why finding purpose is just as important as staying healthy and socially connected. When people retire, they often lose the structure and meaning that work once provided. At first, it feels like freedom, but without something to look forward to, time starts feeling empty. But here's the thing, purpose doesn't retire just because you did. You don't need a full-time job to feel useful. You don't need to change the world to make an impact. Purpose can be found in the smallest things. Mentoring a younger person, sharing wisdom, learning a new skill, volunteering in your community. Look at Helen. She had spent decades working and raising a family. When retirement came, she felt restless, like she was just existing rather than living. But then she started volunteering at a local school, helping children learn to read. What started as a few hours a week transformed her life. She felt needed again. She had something to wake up for. And here's the shocking part, having a sense of purpose can actually extend your life. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose are less likely to develop cognitive decline and live longer, healthier lives. So ask yourself, what gives your days meaning? If you're not sure, start small. Try something new. Reconnect with an old passion. Because a life without purpose isn't really living, it's just waiting. And you deserve more than that. Now here's the big takeaway. Everything we've talked about is connected. If you take care of your health, you maintain your ability to be independent. If you stay socially connected, you protect your brain and emotional well-being. If you make your home safe, you reduce the risk of losing your freedom overnight. If you find purpose, you wake up each day with something to look forward to. The problem is, most people don't realize this until it's too late. They think, I'll start exercising later. I'll reach out to friends when I have time. I'll fix my home when it becomes a problem. But that's how independence fades, not in one big moment, but in small choices that add up over time. The good news? You have control. Right now, you can decide to change the way you age. Not by making drastic, overwhelming changes, but by choosing small, intentional habits that add up to a better, stronger, and more fulfilling life. So let me ask you, what's one change you can make today? Maybe it's going for a short walk. Maybe it's calling a friend. Maybe it's signing up for an activity that excites you. Because the truth is, your best years aren't behind you. They're still yours to create. But only if you decide to live with intention rather than just letting life happen to you. And in the next part of this video, I'll show you exactly how to put this into action. But first, comment below. Which of these changes do you think is the most important? Let's start a conversation now. You know the mistakes. You understand the risks. You see how small habits can add up to big consequences. But knowing isn't enough. What will you do about it? Because here's the truth. Most people hear advice and do nothing with it. They nod along, agree that change is necessary, but then keep doing the same things that led them here in the first place. And that's how time slips away. That's how people wake up years later wondering, how did I end up here? But that doesn't have to be your story. If you're serious about protecting your independence, your health, and your happiness, then start with one decision today. It doesn't have to be a drastic change, just something intentional. If you've been isolating yourself, pick up the phone and call someone today, even if it's just for 5 minutes. If your body feels weaker than it used to, take a short walk, stretch, or commit to moving just a little more each day. If your home has become a hazard, remove a tripping risk or improve the lighting in your most used spaces. You feel like your days lack purpose, seek out an activity, a group, or a project that gives you something to look forward to. It's not about making overwhelming changes all at once. It's about taking small, consistent steps that add up over time. One small action today leads to another tomorrow, and before you know it, you'll start feeling the difference. But none of that happens if you sit back and wait. So ask yourself right now, what is one thing you can do today to take control of your future? And don't just think about it, commit to it. Comment below and tell me, what's your first step? And while you're here, let me ask you something else. Who do you know that needs to hear this? Maybe it's a friend who has been isolating themselves. Maybe it's a parent who refuses to ask for help. Maybe it's someone you love who doesn't realize that small daily choices are shaping their future in ways they can't yet see. Because here's the thing, we're all aging. No one is immune to time. But the people who thrive in their later years, they don't let aging just happen to them. They take control. They don't wait for a crisis to force them into change. They choose change before change chooses them. So share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Have the conversation that might just change their life. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, because this is just the beginning. There is so much more to learn, so many ways to make the next chapter of your life the best one yet. Don't miss out on the insights and strategies that can help you build a future you're excited about. But before you go, let me leave you with this. There will come a day when you look back at the choices you made today. Will you be grateful that you took control of your health, your home, your relationships, and your purpose? Or will you wish you had started sooner? Aging isn't something to fear. It's something to navigate intentionally. You have the power to shape the life you want to live 5, 10, even 20 years from now. But that future isn't something that just happens. It's something you build choice by choice, habit by habit. So as you close this video, ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to be living 5 years from now? And what choices do I need to make today to get there? If you're still watching, that tells me you're ready. Ready to step into a stronger, healthier, more fulfilled version of yourself. Ready to stop letting life happen to you and start taking control. So go take that first step. And I'll see you in the next video.